Trent, our World Junior correspondent from Norway, writes in. He says, make the finals. Canada 6, Slovakia 1, and Russia 3, Switzerland 1. Next up, USA, Finland, and Sweden, Czech Republic, coming after the Rod Pedersen show. Thank you, Trent, in Finland, for the World Juniors update. Why am I tickled by the fact that we have to go to Finland to get a World Juniors update?
To Norway.
Or Norway.
Yeah, I know, right? Isn't that funny? Yeah, crazy. Absolutely crazy. And then with that second game, I've wanted to get this out for a little bit, and we talked about it. You and I did, but we didn't get it, I don't think, on the air on Monday. Is Sweden not the most perplexing story in sports, their World Junior team?
Yes and no.
The biggest oddity in sports with 52?
50, well, whatever it is.
53 straight wins in the preliminary round and only one gold medal.
So they're not a big game country. That's what it tells you.
But every year, no matter what pool they're in, they've been in some tough pools, they've been in good pools, they just never, ever, ever lose in the preliminary round. It's mind-blowing.
Bunch of Stamkos and Kucherovs.
Yeah.
All on the same team.
Yeah.
Good in the regular season. Well, maybe
from the WHL Pats podcast crew. They write in and say, Jared, thoughts on the Pats' direction for the trade deadline? What do you think?
You know what? I would be a seller. I think you can get a huge haul for Max Paddock. Are you going to be at the top of the heap next year? I don't see it. You might be able to hope for the middle of the pack, but having Max Paddock around for one more year, sure, everybody'd love to see him play. He's playing unbelievable, and his second half of the years are always a lot better than the first half, so we'll see what he brings, but yeah, I think you're going to be able to get a huge haul for him. I think there's a couple other guys you could there's some good, I'll call them utility guys, guys like Nyhoff and Crane. Love those guys, great guys in the room, great guys off the ice, great on the ice, but they add so much. If you could be a team and you could add them to your third line, or even third or fourth line, depending on how good your team is, those guys can fill in. You get an injury on the top two lines, those guys can fill in the top two lines. They do everything. They hit. There's some guys I think that can move, and I think there's a team. Is it Edmonton still looking for another 20-year-old too?
Well, they just got a goalie yesterday.
Yeah,
20-year-old.
They did get the goaltender. Yeah,
Beck Warm.
I don't know if any 20-year-olds would go anywhere, but who knows? Somebody could be looking for a Holmes or a Pratt.
But you and I text back and forth during these Pats games, sometimes after, and I'm sorry to bother you when you're on the air.
No problem. I've done it to you a couple times.
True. But this thing with Paddock, they're playing him so much. It's showcasing him. And to his credit,
it has to be.
He's answered the bell.
Yeah.
But Edmonton's got their goalie, because they had a goalie walk out on him just before Christmas, but they got a guy in replacement yesterday. Who would be looking for a goalie? Kelowna?
Yeah.
I would have thought Paddock to Edmonton, but
Prince
they got
Albert,
their guy.
Prince Albert right now, I think, might be. Kelowna might be.
PA. Lethbridge.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Lethbridge, maybe. Yeah. There's a few guys. And I mean, even if you do have a really good number one, or a decent, look at the teams too that have a number one who isn't, one of the very, very top guys. Because if you can bring in a guy like Paddock, who is, and you can have a 1A, 1B system going into the playoffs, and through the last half of the year, if you've already got a good record, that doesn't hurt at all. And then you got, then you can run with the guy you already got, or pads, or you can just keep going and back and forth, whoever's ready, because he's always hot the second half of the year.
From producer Clark, writing in, says, our good friend Brent Parker tweeted that Paddock and Curtis Hunt had a very long conversation before the game the other day. That was just yesterday the Raiders were here, right? Yeah. So maybe there will be a trade between the Pats and the Prince Albert Raiders for a goaltender. Now, the interesting thing, another interesting thing, is you were at the mic for the Blades getting spanked 6-1 by the Winnipeg Ice yesterday at SaskTel Center. Where are the Blades? They're just clinging to a playoff spot, right?
Well,
aren't they third in the East?
They are, but here's a team that for the remainder of the season has, I think it's either 13 or 15 games against teams that aren't in playoff spots remaining. They have a very favorable schedule. They had a really tough first half. They're above 500. And they went through the tough U.S. division. They've played the Central. So they've got a favorable schedule. And the Blades should be able to challenge for home ice advantage in the first round. They should be able to challenge for second place in the East Division. It'll be a real battle between PA, Winnipeg, the Blades, and Brandon. Those are the 4 playoff teams in the East. And so it'll be a battle to see where that all shakes out. But they're an interesting team because of what I said before, right? With Kirby Dach not coming back, they're not a top team anymore because they missed that top line and it becomes that much more difficult to get it. They could go out and flip the Pats' first-round pick from next year, which should be a lottery pick. And they could make another move, and all of a sudden, you get 2 top-line guys to play with Eric Florchuk, and all of a sudden you can compete again, really contend. But if you don't, now you got Smooth. So Eric Florchuk's a player who's in play. They've got 2 good 20-year-old defensemen in Scott Walford and Nolan Neen. Riley McKay, who brings some grit as a 20-year-old and gets under people's skin, but can also score. They've got some pieces to move. It'll be interesting to see which way they decide to go because, like a lot of teams, we all have the same destination in mind, but there's a ton of different ways to get there. So it'll be interesting to see what Colin Priestner and Steve Hildebrand do.
You know, we had a sponsor in here now that I think about it. From Sask Snow Beef, Ian.
Yeah.
And he said that we should do a WHL trade deadline special. And that would be, so the 10th is next Friday. So we'll probably do a segment on it. I mean, we'll be on the air 10 a.m. to noon. But do you think, Jared, it'll be must-see TV? WHL trades? Because the deadline's not till, 3 in the afternoon or something?
Yeah, you know what? I think that I think you're going to start seeing stuff happen in the next couple days. I think it's going to happen before the deadline. But you'll still see some stuff happen at the deadline. But I think most of it's going to happen. You know, guys like to get in a little bit early. They've already been in talks probably, and over the Christmas break, I think that's probably when GMs do a lot of talking as well. They got a little bit more time. And I think probably all the GMs at this point pretty much know what they want to do. And it's just seeing, okay, who's going to get that domino. As soon as that first domino falls, a team might go, that was our guy. But now that we can't get him, we got to pull the trigger quickly on this other guy. And the good thing for guys like the Regina Pats is that there's so many teams looking to upgrade. There's 4 teams in our division that'll probably be looking to upgrade. A few on the other side as well. When there's that many buyers, prices go up because you're getting more and more offers, so you get a little bit more. So that's one of the benefits, I think, for the Regina Pats is they'll get a little bit more than if there was just, 1 or 2 teams going for it trying to load up.
Pretty cool that Winnipeg's in the running.
Yeah.
Cool. And they look very good. The Winnipeg Ice, when they come to your town, everybody in Western Canada, buy a ticket and go watch them. Peyton Krebs, Cole Sillinger, 2 for sure players that you have to buy a ticket to go watch in the WHL. And on one hand, I sort of think, poor Kootenay, poor Cranbrook. The team leaves and they're good again. But you know what? Sorry, Cranbrook. You had the team of the decade. And you didn't go and support it, which they all know. That's why the team's not there anymore. Yeah. But, I mean, didn't they set a record for consecutive years in the playoffs?
16 years, I believe it was, straight that they made the playoffs. 1 Western Hockey League titles, 1 Memorial. Did they win 2 Memorial Cups in that time?
1 or 2.
1 for sure, maybe 2. I can't remember now. But I thought it was 2 Memorial Cups. And even then, in those playoff runs, they weren't selling out the arena.
Right.
At times. So
it's not a very big arena.
So I get it. But they're going to have this in Winnipeg. So Connor McClellan was the number 2 overall pick in 2017. He's turned into a star. He's got an A on his sweater. He's only 17 years old. Peyton Krebs will be gone, but that's okay. Connor Geekie was the number 2 pick in this last draft. He's playing a few games now as a 15-year-old. He looks awesome. The Savoy kid, the younger Savoy kid.
Yeah.
He was drafted. He has an agreement to play half a season.
By the way, what about him? Yeah, what do you think about that hit? Did you see the hit?
Took the big hit against Brandon.
Shouldn't be playing. I'm sorry.
He's not now.
No. He shouldn't be playing at
15.
All. Playing against 20-year-old. How old was the guy that flattened him?
No, exactly. 18 or 19.
But I think we might see the first exceptional status player in the WHL next year. This Connor Bedard kid who's leading the AAA league in scoring at this point of the year. He's going to be a good one. I think we might see him at 15 next to lead the AAA scoring as an underage. That's pretty special.
But the Western Hockey League's never done that, right? They've never done it. It hasn't been their propensity to do it, and I think it's a little bit to do with what we saw, like you said, with Savoy, with Matthew Savoy. When he took that big hit open ice, it was a clean check, but you just have such a size difference, and you grow so big, and I always talk about, the value of a summer for a kid. don't get down on a kid at 16 or at 17 when he's only got 15, 20 points. Because look at what Jagan Halbogawatz did, or look what other players do. You go from 15 goals to 50, and a kid grows so much over the summer. And the Savoy kid's going to be a completely different player even 1 year from now.
When are they starting contact now? Wasn't Savoy in one of the ones that would have started?
Bantam.
Yeah, if he would have started contact in Pee Wee, he would have started getting those skills a little bit earlier of how to keep your head up, how to take a hit.
Tier 1 Bantam, by the way.
These young guys, these young kids are all skating with their heads down because they never had to learn how to take a hit because...
So why's... I know we're out of time here, but... Why is the Dub doing it? You would think they would know it. I mean, I will tell a funny story. I went to Brandon Weeking's camp as a rookie. Thought I was going to be in rookie camp. I was 16 years old, 5'6", 146 pounds. Think about that for a second. Built like a flea. And if you know the Keystone Center, Kevin Cheveldayoff came walking down the ramp. This is like September the 5th. Yeah. So he's all tan, got no shirt on, got his hockey bag over his shoulder, and I'm like, wait a minute, what's he doing here? Yeah. Because he looked like just the Rock of Gibraltar. They're like, no, Rod, you're going to main camp. He's 19. You're going with these guys. I'm like, what? I survived to tell it, but there's a huge difference.
Yeah.
And he's 15.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be playing. I'm sorry. Yeah. Shouldn't be.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.